Hello, everybody. Fernando Labastida here again with Jimmy Jobe, the CEO, co-founder of Verge Technologies. We're here in another episode of the Verge Technologies podcast. How are you doing today, Jimmy? How are things up in
Um,
Dallas?
they're doing pretty good. They're pretty cool today. Right at that freezing mark this morning.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it was like in the mid, a little bit above the mid 30s, even here
Yeah.
in Austin. So
Right.
okay. Well, let's get right into it because I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff. We've had some recent outages that everybody knows, the Cloudflare one, the AWS one. We've had some consolidations. In fact, why don't you talk about this is a topic we're talking about off screen here that there's some consolidations happening in the industry that impact databases and cloud and the whole discussion around converged cloud. So why don't you tell us about some of your thoughts on this area?
Thank you, Fernando. Yes, I guess it's been in the news everywhere. We were starting to see a little bit in the marketplace around AI based companies as far as market consolidation. If you kind of think about the fact that everyone is gearing up for the AI push, and we've seen that demand as it relates to building new data centers. We've seen that demand as far as the processing power that's going to be required over the next 5 years. And then, of course, then so you say process methods and tools, right? So the last is, well, what tools are we going to bring to bear around the further development of AI, the tailoring of AI as it relates to business processes and companies, and enabling the companies to have more competitive advantage in the marketplace, and this tools that can manage these new AI data centers and manage the enterprises that are using these centers, right? And so, uh, if you're a Google or an Azure or any other MSP or cloud provider out there, then you say, well, I need to develop these type of capabilities for the market. And so, well, the next decision is a make versus buy decision, right? Can I from scratch just build this, or based upon whatever AI assets I have, can I actually turn out the kind of capabilities and tools I need in order to secure my place in the market? Or do I need to take a faster time to market, get something out there sooner with a buy decision versus a make decision, right? And so, based upon all those factors in the market, we're starting to see some consolidation around AI vendors. I mean, this week it was the IBM and Confluence, but in the past few weeks, there's been Google announcing relationships. It's been Azure, it's been AWS. And so, as far as AI is concerned, they definitely have the market leader's attention, right? And so they're scrambling to figure out, well, how do I incorporate this in my business? How do I charge for it? What do I want to manage now versus in the future? And so I think we're going to see a whole lot more of that in 2026 as people start to look at the gaps they have in their offerings, and they go out in the marketplace and they're looking for existing companies that will speed their time to market, that they can purchase and integrate with the rest of their architecture.
Yeah, so I don't know if this is related, but you mentioned Azure, AWS, Google. Wasn't there a recent announcement, or at least rumors of AWS and Google, their cloud offerings kind of collaborating together?
Yeah, and we've seen that also. We've seen some additional partnerships with like Lumen Technologies, who has a lot of the telecom and a lot of the circuits. A lot of those are around the networking side. In other words, today, if you wanted to build a bridge between AWS and, let's say, Azure, you need to go hire somebody that can do that, unless you've got the skill set in house. Somebody needs to turn up point-to-point solutions. Somebody needs to get it installed. Those lead times can be, 6 weeks, 2 months, longer, right, to get those circuits turned up. So what the large service providers are doing is that they're going to try to set up those networks in advance where it'll make it easier to move traffic, right? Now that doesn't mean that they're not going to charge egress fees for moving that traffic. It is going to give you the ability to move it, right? And so I don't know if that in turn will prompt a different business model. But it certainly makes companies like Verge Technologies makes our job a little bit easier in the fact that if those networks are already in place, it makes our job of managing within and across all compute environments a little bit more straightforward. It removes a little bit of the complexity that we would have had to go in and log into specific accounts, create servers, create databases, then manage those databases, right? So it takes a couple of those steps out, which means we can react faster and better and more reliably than we even were in the past once these things are in place.
So it would be a net positive for Verge and Sentient DB to
It
see
would.
more of these.
It
Yeah.
would. I've always thought we've always been service provider agnostic, and we've always been independent of the hardware layer, which means we're independent from the server layer that the database is hosted on, right? Uh, uh, and so we are actually operate at the service layer, right? The network service layer, right? And so this can I think is a net positive for us, and it's just an additional couple of steps that we don't have to take and the enterprise doesn't have to take if they can indeed use these things, if they're cost effective to use these new networking capabilities that look like agreements are being signed with.
Yeah. So that's really interesting news. And I wanted to shift gears a little bit, and I wanted to talk about these recent cloud outages. I know we've talked about them pretty extensively. I actually just saw some news that in the context of these recent, the AWS outages, the Cloudflare, the Azure outage, there was an Israeli startup, Parametrics. They target Fortune 500 clients. They're an infrastructure insurance company. They just raised $27 million in a Series B round. Right. So now there's companies providing insurance for infrastructure, but getting to kind of like doing a postmortem or an autopsy on these things. What are some of the things that nobody is talking about when outages like this happen? I mean, what are the sort of
Yeah,
like the non-obvious
yeah,
lessons that we can learn?
yeah. Well, the obvious things are the things that are tangible, right? I was down for 6 hours, right? In that 6 hours, I couldn't process, $500 million worth of transactions or whatever, and that in turn cost X amount of dollars to my bottom line, right? It cost me. And so those are a lot of the tangible things that accountants can put down on paper and they can figure that out, right? The intangible things are the reputation loss, the hit to the brand of the company, whether companies that are wanting to do business with that particular company that had the outage, whether or not they feel just as comfortable doing business with them tomorrow as they did yesterday, right? and what does that impact mean to them? Because this stuff just it's just a chain link downstream, right? The enterprise has the outage, then all their customers, of course, then they have the outage, and then their customers have the outage, and before long, you've got half of the companies on Earth that are affected by this, right? And
Yeah.
so the intangibles. It is my view, and has always been my view, that the intangibles will hurt you a lot worse than the tangibles, right? You'll get over that hit to the bottom line. But it's the public perception, and that's what drives your stock price. It's what drives the value of your corporation. And people want to see stability. They want to see growth. They want to invest in a company that's not vulnerable to these sorts of things, right? And so I think those are the intangibles that would be hard to put a value on, yet everyone knows they're there, right? It's kind of like, your perception of a dirty airline seat, right? And how safe you think that airline is to fly from that point forward, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned something, as me as a marketer, I think about brand equity, and the intangible thing is that brand equity, which is a huge part. I don't think that people, when they think about company valuations, think about that aspect of it so much. They think about, oh, their client, their a client base and their assets and their annual revenues. But the brand equity is a huge part of things, and I think you're spot on there when you're talking about the intangibles, that trust that is broken when you're down for 6 hours or even 24 hours. So yeah, that's fantastic. What are some of the things? Because one of the things I noticed, just with human nature, is that we're so slow to change. We're so mired in our habits. And it's not just people, but it's companies, it's society, it's markets. Are you still seeing people kind of dragging their feet on making some of these important mental shifts when it comes to, automation and, converged clouds, et
Yeah,
cetera?
yeah, and you see that for several different reasons, right? And I guess you always will, right? I mean, you can uh, uh, go and follow the adoption curve, right, with the early adopters and the transom and the gap and then crossing the chasm and all that kind of thing, right? And you and the even though that's kind of a truism, there's enough truth in that you ought to pay attention to it, right? And so part of it is adopting a new technology that's not currently available in the market, that's new,
Right.
that's could produce fantastic results if you could go and implement it, right? And so there's a couple of different kinds of costs that are involved in adopting a new technology. Of course, there's the risk, right? Is it going to work? Is it going to scale? Is it going to solve the problems they say it's going to solve? But more and not more importantly, but as important as that, it's that, hey, look, I've got all these manual procedures and I've got all these tools that are already in place that, yeah, your solution would be huge and it would be a big change and I could save money in the long run and it would pay for itself in a few years. And I get all of that, but there's a cost of change, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've got to go switch this out. I've got to retrain my staff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've got to do the things that are necessary in an enterprise just to adopt new technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so uh, part of that hesitation is the cost of change. Part of that is hesitation is the um, uh, cost associated with just adopting a new technology, right? And so to me, those are the main things that have always been, if you would, barriers to
Yeah.
bringing new technology to market. And I assume they always will be.
Yeah.
The things that tend to offset that, and it's interesting uh, the irony here, right? Is that the people that are typically going to bring new technology to market are new innovative companies that are flexible and can change on a dime and be able to bring new innovative technology to the market, right? And I've worked in very, very large enterprises and I've worked in very, very small startups. And I guarantee you the people that are trying to innovate in a large company have about three strikes against them before they start for all the reasons that we know, right?
Yeah.
And so that being the case, then the enterprise, is an additional risk in the fact that you're a startup company, right?
Yeah.
The more scale you have, the more validation you have, the less risk they have in changing out the new technology. Yet that scale is typically not with the people that is bringing the new technology to market. So it's a huge irony about what can help. So to me, I think the changes that enterprises need, and I don't know if this is a different company or a different space in the market. We've got all kinds of industry analysts, like Gartners and Forsters and all those guys, right? But is someone that's taking this new technologies that are entering the market, the startups, the things, and then starting to plug those into gaps that are in AI or just in governance or in management within and across different compute environments, right? A federated, a unified management across those, and being able to start to plug that into those gaps, and then going and investigating those companies and validating that. Well, yeah, they really does what they say it does, right?
Yeah.
And then that should lead to, I think, some sorts of sponsorship or a big brother's hand to help you as you enter market. And I think there's a whole kind of discipline and ecosystem there that doesn't seem to be in place today. Yeah, I know
Hmm.
we've got private equity and we got VCs and we've got that. My sense is that the motivations there might not be the same as just trying to fill the right technology gap, if you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Wow. That's actually, that's a whole other dimension, of things, the dynamics in the market to look at, and what you mentioned earlier, it just kind of reminds me of the sunk cost fallacy. You know, they've already invested in 30, 40 years worth of technology that's, they're tinkering with it. They have to fix the leaks and the cracks in the walls and the gutters, and how they have to improve the roofing, using a housing analogy, but they're still going to keep it instead of going out and replacing it. So yeah, yeah, thank you so much for that. So I was just wondering if, um you know, I think it would be an interesting thought exercise, Jimmy, if we could think about, maybe you're just your average kind of cloud ops director, right? Let's just think about that person who was in the thick of the out, when it, like, maybe the AWS outage of, was it 2 months ago now already, or a month ago,
Yeah, time flies,
or
right? Yeah.
time flies, right? Or maybe even the Cloudflare outage, which was not so much a cloud outage as so much as a, you know um something, it was a edge server outage, but still, what do you think it would have been like for this cloud ops director the day of the AWS outage, where he's running around with his hair on fire?
Well, it would have been uh, very terrifying and anxious, and that's the point when you have more help than you ever wanted, right? to help solve. So people are coming out of the woodwork to help you solve this thing, right? Mm. And so eh, being able to first pinpoint, you know, the cause, pinpoint how then we're going to restore the cause to operations, and then how we're going to restore all the other systems that are dependent upon that particular system that went down, right?
Right.
And then how do we going to restore our customers once our operations are restored, right? So
Uh-huh.
uh, now most op directors have a lot of that out. They've got an outage protocol. They've got who they've got to notify. They've got who they've got to pull in a room. They got who they're going to count on to get to root cause. They got everybody's phone numbers, right?
Mhm.
And so uh, uh, being able to react quickly is one thing. I mean, it doesn't erase all the damage that's done,
Mhm.
but of course, the faster you can react and the faster you can manage toward full operations again, the better off you're going to be as an ops director, and the better off your company is going to be for being able to shorten the outage as much as possible, right? But yeah, your hair's on fire. I've got those 2 a.m. calls back when I was a CIO and VP of ops as well, right? So
Yeah.
I know what it is to crawl out of bed at 2 in the morning with your hair on fire.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, and then now that, today, at the time of recording, today is the 9th of December. So Christmas is upon us, the holidays are here, and in no time at all, it's going to be 2026. And so I was wondering if you could, kind of take out your crystal ball and tell us a little bit about what are some of the trends and pressures that CIOs are going to be facing, um, in next year, and what should the boardroom understand about what CIOs are going to be facing, demanding, um, trying to improve, um, in 2026.
Yeah, thank you. There's a lot of aspects through that, as they say. I'll try to view through the mirror darkly, right, and see what I
Yeah.
see. But uh, uh, there's a lot of things. Number one, CIOs, and this is not anything new. It's been around for 20, 25 years. Back when I was CIO of several different companies, uh, but you're always under cost pressure.
Hmm.
You always under pressure to do more with less, right? Uh, because IT is an enabler, right?
Yeah.
It's not making the company money, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so they're always be under pressure. They're even more under pressure today, especially in a hybrid cloud, multi-cloud environment, because costs tend to be somewhat unpredictable, and this goes with ingress and egress cost and different health and well-being automation that's is attached to the servers and monitoring and all of that. The operations cost tend to fluctuate a lot, and if you're not able to predict your IT cost, well, your job's probably on the line, right? No matter
Yeah.
whether it's your fault that you can't do that or not. Bottom line is somebody's got to pay that, and it's probably the CIO, right?
Right.
And so those are existing pressures that are continuing to mount. There's always the risk pressures of operating within and across different compute environments, whether you have like 4 or 5 different cloud service providers and a couple of on-prem data centers, and you're in charge of operations, right? So you've got to make it all work. So uh, I think that products that bring automation to the task, such as like Sentient DB, for example, and bring intelligent automation to the task where you've got less touch labor, you've got more self-managing and sort of more self-healing, allows you to reallocate a lot of those resources that were babysitting a lot of those things back to being developing those enablers for the enterprise to be more competitive, to open new markets, to provide new products, and that in turn drops to the bottom line. So, I think intelligent automation. I think automation using AI is going to be essential in 2026 for the next 5 years as that intelligent IT management across systems starts to mature. Right,
Hmm.
it's in its early stages now with products like ours and others, right? And so I look for that to manifest itself. I look for CIOs to somewhat change in the fact that in order to get to those changes, in order to get to those benefits, is going to require risk taking not only by the CIO, but by the board. They've got to believe that going from managing my operations this way to managing my operations this other way is going to be painful to go through that, but it's also necessary to go through that for us to get to the next stage where we can run more efficiently, where we can run with more resilience and reliability and more fault tolerance across all of our systems, and that we're less dependent upon any one service provider than we are today. That is going to take deliberate action, deliberate planning, and deliberate execution to make that successful.
Yeah. You mentioned something earlier which caught my attention. About how CIOs and IT departments in general are a cost center, right? Um, and it just got me thinking about this whole digital transformation thing, which we've been talking about for a decade and a half. It's like, oh, companies need to digitally transform. They need to become, even your regular brick and mortar company needs to become a technology company, if you will. And so I'm almost wondering if it'll make a CIO's job easier if they tie the cloud convergence and automation and AI argument into, well, we're just making digital transformation more efficient. We're helping you become more like, I don't know. Maybe I'm grasping at straws here, or I don't really know how to phrase the argument that I'm trying to make here. But could there be a way of couching the benefits of automation and AI and making operations more efficient, not having to depend on so many on one cloud? Couldn't CIOs couch it in terms of, well, this is all part of digital transformation. This is all part of you making more money, as opposed to more of a cost savings and a risk mitigation thing?
Yeah. Yeah, there is, and in the government quarters and the government projects, they call it the modernization strategy, right? And there's something to be said from that, from getting out of legacy data centers and legacy apps and trying to get to a cloud environment. It is a modernization act, right?
Okay.
But I think with CIOs, they're going to need to be able to look at this again from both tangible and intangible aspects, right? Uh, the tangible aspects, they can calculate, at least estimate what the benefits, the cost savings, the reduced time to market for products and services. They can model that and get to at least a reasonable, knowable thing that then can be proven versus time, right? Uh, and then there's the intangible side of that, which everybody knows is there, but might be more difficult to quantify, right? In other words, by changing all this, yeah, we're going to get reduced cost and we're going to get more resilience and less downtime. Well, I get that. But how does that translate into time to market for new products and services? How does that translate into I'm more competitive today with my competition than I was yesterday because I did this,
Bingo.
right?
Bingo. Yeah.
Those kinds of intangibles are there as well, right?
Yeah.
With making the move toward automation, with making the move toward a more self-managing, self-healing management of those operations, right? All
Hmm.
those carry benefits that some may be very tangible that you can put down on paper and some may not.
Yeah. Yeah. And it also makes me think about, how can this help us become more agile?
Yeah,
Because, agility is a thing that I know that large corporations sometimes lack when it comes to startups or,
yeah,
up and comers.
yeah. It's like
Yeah.
trying to turn an aircraft carrier very quickly. It's just not going to happen, right?
Right. Or or
Yeah,
or turn the Titanic or something.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, listen, I think this has been a great conversation, Jamie. I don't know if you have any last minute closing thoughts or anything that you wanted to, any thoughts you have about trends, about the markets, or if you wanted to finish any thoughts that you made earlier. Any closing thoughts, Jimmy?
Yeah, I would encourage the enterprises that are out there to really think through their dependence upon single service providers. I would really encourage you to embrace change and embrace the benefits of that change. I know there's going to be some risk, but I believe the benefits of moving toward a multi-cloud environment where you can use that as a strength versus a weakness, where you are less dependent on one service provider, where you have increased your operating resilience and your fault tolerance to anything that might happen, are things that you're going to need to do, and those things are more complex in a multi-cloud environment, right? So the true answer to that uh, riddle, if you would, is being able to find systems that can manage within and across all of your compute and service provider operations, so that you have a unified or federated view that you can then have one control plane, one management plane for your operational assets. That's where we're going to. And the sooner that you can get your enterprise there, the better off you'll be and your shareholders.
I think those are great closing thoughts there, Jimmy. And so until the next episode, we'll see everybody. And if we don't see each other then, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. See you then.
Happy, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah, happy
Yeah,
Kwanzaa and everything. Okay, perfect.
yeah. Talk
All
to you
righty.
later, Ed. All
Bye
righty, bye
bye.
bye.